You know that feeling, right? You find yourself just scrolling endlessly, or watching just one more episode, or grabbing just one more cookie, even when a voice in your head is telling you to stop. It really feels like our whole world is just this giant machine of endless, irresistible distractions that somehow get their hooks deep into us. Well, today we're going to dig into why, and it all starts with a pretty staggering number. Take a look at this. 8 hours and 5 minutes. That's not how long you're supposed to sleep. According to Statista, that's the average time adults in the US were spending with digital media every single day, way back in 2021. And you know that number's only gone up. We're practically living inside our screens. But this isn't just about phones. It's about a massive shift in our entire environment. So, that brings us to the big question, the one we're really diving into here. Why? Why is this stuff so powerful? Why do we feel this pull to keep engaging, even when we know it's not what's best for us? Well, the answer, and this is the fascinating part, is buried deep inside the wiring of our own brains. Okay, so first things first, we have to get a handle on the world we're actually living in because, let's be honest, it's a world that has been carefully, meticulously engineered to be more rewarding, more stimulating, and way more potent than any other time in human history. The key idea we really need to wrap our heads around is something called supernormal stimuli. Just think of them as man-made creations that hijack our natural, ancient desires, but then they crank the volume up to 11, to a level nature just never prepared us for. A perfect way to think about this is an apple versus an apple pie. An apple, that's a natural reward. It's sweet, it's good for you, your brain gives you a little thumbs up for eating it. But an apple pie? Oh, that's different. That's an apple that's been engineered. We've packed it with concentrated sugar, fat, all those spices. It's the supernormal version. And our brains crave it with an intensity that the simple apple just can't compete with. And our digital world, it is just packed with endless apple pies. The psychiatrist Dr. Anna Lemke actually has a great term for this. She says our environment has been drugified, and it's happened through these 4 factors. The rewards are more potent than ever, they're available in endless quantities, there's always something new, this constant novelty, and we have 24/7 access to it all right in the palm of our hand. So the really crucial point here isn't that we're weak-willed, it's that we are up against a system that is perfectly designed to hook us. So how does our brain even deal with all of this? Well, it all comes down to a really simple but incredibly powerful internal system. This delicate, seesawing balance between pleasure and pain. I want you to imagine there's a seesaw inside your brain. On one side, you've got pleasure, and on the other, you've got pain. Now, most of the time, in its default state, your brain works really, really hard to keep this seesaw perfectly level, perfectly balanced. That balanced state, it's called homeostasis. It's your baseline. It's your neutral. Now, let's say you eat a piece of chocolate, or you get a whole bunch of likes on a social media post. Boom. That's a rewarding stimulus. Your brain releases dopamine. That's the famous feel-good chemical. And your seesaw temporarily tips way over to the side of pleasure. You feel good, simple enough, right? But, and this is the really wild part, your brain does not like to be out of balance for long. So to respond to that big tip towards pleasure, it launches a counterattack. You can literally picture it like these little pain gremlins hopping on the other side of the seesaw to bring it back to level. This is a real thing. It's called the opponent process mechanism. And it's exactly why the buzz from that cookie or that video eventually just fades away. So here's where the trouble starts. If you keep hitting that pleasure lever over and over and over again, your brain starts to adapt. Those pain gremlins, they get bigger. They get faster. There are more of them, they start showing up earlier, and they decide to stick around a lot longer. And eventually, they kind of set up a permanent camp on the pain side of your seesaw, tilting your entire baseline state into a place of slight pain, of anxiety, of craving. This whole process is called neuroadaptation. So what happens next? Well, this is the big consequence of having this system constantly hacked by all those modern, supernormal stimuli. We end up in this state of chasing a high that just gets harder and harder to reach. So, on the left here, you can see what happens the first time you get a big reward. You get this huge dopamine spike, a great feeling, followed by a tiny little dip. But now, look at the right. This is after repeated use. See what happens? That pleasure spike is way smaller, it's shorter, but the crash afterward, the pain is so much deeper, and it lasts so much longer. This is what scientists call a dopamine deficit state. And at this point, you're not even using to feel good anymore. You're using just to feel normal again. And I want to be clear, this is not just a metaphor. You can physically see this in the brain. These are fMRI scans from the work of Dr. Nora Volkow. On the left are control brains, and on the right are the brains of people with substance addictions. All that bright red and yellow, those are the brain's pleasure receptors. Now look at the addicted brains on the right. There's just less. The brain has literally turned down the volume on its own pleasure system. And this is how we get to a real scientific understanding of what addiction is. It's not some kind of moral failing. It's a disease. It's characterized by the continued, compulsive use of something despite the harm it's causing. It's what happens when a brain gets stuck with its pleasure-pain balance tilted way, way over to the side of pain. Okay, I know that all sounds pretty bleak. It sounds kind of depressing. But hang on, because this is where the story takes a turn. Because the very same mechanism that gets us into this mess is also the secret to getting out. Let me introduce you to your brain's secret superpower, neuroplasticity. This is the brain's incredible, mind-blowing ability to change, to adapt, to literally heal itself. The exact same process that made those pain pathways stronger can be used to weaken them and to build new, healthier ones. Your brain is not set in stone. It's changeable. This quote from the UCAT blog just says it perfectly. Neuroplasticity, it's a double-edged sword. It's the very thing that makes us so vulnerable in this supernormal world we live in, but it is also precisely what gives us the tools to fight back, to change our habits, and to literally rewire our own reward circuits. So this brings all this brain science right back to us, right here, right now. Just understanding this mechanism, how it all works, that's the first huge step toward taking back control and finding our own sense of balance. And that really leaves us with this final, and I think most important question. This world, it's not going to get any less stimulating. The digital apple pies are not going away. So knowing what you know now about how your brain works, about the pleasure-pain balance, about the amazing power of neuroplasticity, how will you choose to navigate it all? How will you intentionally make space for your brain to reset and find its balance again? That's the challenge for sure, but it's also the opportunity for every single one of us.